Hello beautiful people, welcome to my channel. My name is Layla and I'm a data engineer living in New York City. And today we're doing New York City apartment hunting. I hope you enjoy. Okay, a little backstory first. My husband and I actually moved to Seattle at the beginning of 2021 for a job and recently moved back to New York City to be closer to friends and family. And it ain't my first time looking for an apartment in New York City. Trust me, I know what it's like. It's super competitive, super expensive, but this time it's a little bit different. We discovered that we are no longer able to afford a lot of the places that we used to be able to comfortably afford before the pandemic. The same two-bedroom apartment that we used to pay $3,400 for is now listed for $4,800 on StreetEasy. So what happened was a lot of people like ourselves moved out of New York City during 2020/2021 to escape the pandemic and causing the rental market to cool down a little bit. But ever since the summer of 2022, things started to pick back up again and a lot of people actually moved back to New York City. And a lot of the landlords thought, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to harvest some of the losses that occurred during the lockdown, and we're here. And in New York City, there's actually no limit to how much your landlord can raise your rent, so they can literally write a notice the week prior to booting you out. Isn't that insane? Alright, so let's go over the criteria list real quick. The first criteria is that it needs to be a two-bedroom or a one-bedroom with a den. My husband actually uses the second bedroom as his office and all of his video gaming stuff, so it's non-negotiable for him. The second criteria is that the rent ideally is somewhere around $4,000. I know it's probably not super realistic for anywhere in Manhattan, but we're gonna try anyway. We're willing to bring it up to $5,000 for places that we really love, but that is the absolute ceiling. The third criteria is laundry and unit, or even in a building is fine. I've done the taking your laundry to the laundromat thing when I was a college graduate and was absolute broke, and I dropped all of my clean clothes in the dirty New York City snow. I'm not doing that again. Nuh-uh. And then the fourth criteria is it needs to be pet friendly. We do have a big dog whose name's Boba. The fifth criteria is, actually there's no fifth criteria, they're optional criteria from now on. So the first one is sunlight. I know y'all be laughing at that one, but that New York City sunlight is probably more expensive than the doorman and gym combined, okay? And the second optional is, well, gym and doorman. I do go to the gym, but as long as there's one somewhat accessible in the neighborhood that I can get to, I'm not worried about that. The doorman situation I think is nice, but it's not necessary as long as my packages don't get stolen. Alright, let's go find ourselves some apartment. The sit-down video of me showing you all the apartments that I visited on this hunt, I thought it'd be way more fun if I show you what everyone see on TV versus reality. The first apartment that we're gonna go see is in the West Village, where the Friends apartment is actually located. Friends is probably my favorite TV show of all time. I know there are a lot of controversies about that show today, so don't come at me for saying this, but it taught me how to speak English. Looking back, I probably subconsciously manifested a lot of good things that happened to me thanks to the show. Everyone is so supportive of each other. I will always remember how inspired I felt when everyone encouraged Rachel to cut all of her credit cards in halves when she first ran away from home. For the first time in her life, she's independent, she's off to experience adulthood, she's scared, but everything will be okay because she's surrounded by good friends. Life sucks and you're gonna love it, said Monica. and that could not be more true in my experience. However, the show did set unrealistic expectations about being able to afford living here on a waitress or even a fashion columnist salary. Especially in West Village, the apartments are known to be super duper expensive, but very tiny. I once had a younger friend who told me she felt like a failure despite graduating from a great university and getting straight A's all her life just because she barely could afford the city with a sub six-figure income. The apartments we looked at were located at a highly desirable location. 3 minutes walk away from the subway and has a gorgeous lobby. I knew what I was getting myself into by looking in this neighborhood, but I still could not wrap my head around just how tiny the apartment is.
Okay. This is about the smallest kitchen island I've ever seen.
The good news is I do like the paint color, and there are several smaller closets hidden behind the walls, but even so, we'll need to do some serious downsizing.
How much is this one again?
I got the hell out of there as soon as I heard that because $51.50 is just not worth the space that we're getting. I did go see another apartment in the same building. The interior looks good.
This view is terrific.
Yeah.
With only one downside. It's a studio apartment. I just can't get on board with paying over $5,000 for a studio or one-bedroom apartment this size. I don't care if it's located in the most beautiful neighborhood on earth, it's not worth it. Well, better luck elsewhere.
Where to?
Brooklyn, please.
I don't go to Brooklyn.
Yeah. Neither do I.
Speaking of popular TV shows, I don't know if y'all remember the episode from Sex and the City where Miranda had to move with the family to Brooklyn and resisted the idea so very much at first. But don't dismiss Brooklyn just yet. Brooklyn is one of the most mesmerizing places I've ever been to. And I'm not talking about the super, touristy area like Dumbo. Plus the rent is a little bit less. The apartment's more spacious and the neighborhood's more quiet. Tons of cool coffee and food places. I genuinely don't understand the unnecessary stigma against it just because it's not as prestigious or wealthy as Manhattan. One thing that I really enjoyed when I was living here before we moved to Seattle was that I get to leave Manhattan behind when I was done with work for the day. Manhattan can be so in your face sometimes. It gets really overwhelming if you live in a state of low-grade distress 24/7.
Can we follow here?
We're doing group showings.
Okay.
Apartments in Brooklyn face increased demand these days due to its affordability. That the tenants for both apartments we saw here did group showing, with the current tenants still hadn't completely moved out yet. The 2-bedroom here is $3,400 a month, well within our budget, but my first impression of the building wasn't great. All the packages were piling up in the lobby, unorganized. But I'm pretty happy with the apartment itself. It has in-unit laundry. It's definitely not the biggest in size though, and the closet space are super limited. The smaller room can be used as an office. The window is small, but because it's south-facing, the room is surprisingly well lit. We also came across a townhouse in the Prospect Park area. I was immediately drawn to the beautiful streets outside. This is by far the best street we could ask for to walk our dog. The apartment they were renting out is on the 2nd floor. The entrance is super narrow, but the living room is small but gets decent amount of light, and it's able to fit 2 standing desks. But the bedroom is what sold it for me. It has a master bathroom and a beautiful window nook where you can sit on to people watch. Right next to it, it's a 2nd bedroom, smaller but also super cute. But the problem is, it's $6,000, way over my budget.
As promised. Thanks.
Next, we're headed over to Upper East Side, where all the Manhattan elites apparently live. My first impression of the Upper East Side was heavily based on the notorious Gossip Girl series, with the original cast, of course. I was a high schooler in China at the time and couldn't wrap my head around how they all got into Ivy when clearly no one was seen doing their homework, like ever.
I am standing right in front of the Waldorf mansion from Gossip Girl.
Unfortunately, the alleged Blair Waldorf mansion was under construction at the time, so I couldn't see the outside. But anything right across the street from Central Park is probably worth hundreds of millions of dollars automatically.
I'm on my way to see an apartment between the 1st and 2nd Avenue.
Okay, alright, so we've got, this is a 2-bedroom.
Technically, it's a 2-bedroom and a den. Once we walk in, there's a bathroom on the left. And the 2 bedrooms are super small. And the agent actually confirmed that it used to be just one giant bedroom, but they converted it to allow more people to live in it. The kitchen looks pretty nice and clean. Another thing that they did was to create another space in the back that can be used as an office. Rent is $47.50, which is pretty rare in Manhattan. Next on my list is Queens. Queens is one of the boroughs that I have visited a few times but haven't actually lived in. But just a quick Google search tells me that there's a ton of amazing amenities and shops here. Parks, doggy daycare, coffee shops, restaurants, shopping mall, and Costco is a 10-minute drive away. I'm already in love. The average rental price in Queens for a 2-bedroom is around $2,900, about $1,600 cheaper than Brooklyn, which is pretty significant. I was immediately struck by how big the apartment is compared to all the other ones that we've looked at so far. The kitchen is separated from the living room, and there's a bonus dining room. The bathrooms are very small, but I think that actually makes more sense because no one spent the majority of his day in a bathroom anyway. Oh, and there's another entry to the apartment that leads straight to the fire escape. How genius. This apartment is $3,900, and for the larger space, it's definitely more worth it to me than the one we saw in Brooklyn. I'm pretty sure when I saw this last apartment, my jaw hit the floor when I saw the living room. Would you look at that? The stairs immediately elevated the whole space. Again, separated kitchen, big bedrooms, and small bathrooms, but no dining room like we saw in the previous apartment. However, we'll be paying a premium for the aesthetic living room. This one is $4,100. Oh, and one thing that I forgot to mention previously is that we actually got a car in Seattle and brought it back with us to New York City. Well, we were gonna sell it if we ended up getting a place in Manhattan or Brooklyn with street parking, but parking situation in Queens is actually not that bad, and the apartments that we looked at have garage parking, so that's great. That means that we don't need to sell our car. Alright, ready for the big review? 5, 4. It's Queens! We actually ended up getting the second to last apartment in this video. The only thing I don't like is probably it being a little bit further away than I anticipated from work. But I think that's not a big deal because I don't go to work as often anyway. And it is the place that made the most sense for us financially right now. I'm a firm believer of living below your means, but you know, of course, balance that with your quality of life and happiness. I know a lot of people are gonna ask, like, why live in New York City if your goal is to save money? It's the worst place for that. Good point, good point. However, for me, the answer is that I went to school here. I found my first job here. I built the most important relationships of my life here. And strangely, even though this is not my home country, I feel a sense of belonging. And I guess New York can be welcoming in some way. Yeah, for now, New York is home. Queens is home.